Okay, welcome to this tutorial for the Volca keys. So I am going to go through the following. We're going to have a look at all of these controls here, what these all are. We're then going to go on to the sequencer, how you actually record. There's two kind of ways you can do that. And then we have a bunch of options that you can select also via the sequencer keys. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing we'll look at is these two dials. So first of all, you've just got this little keyboard and you can play the synth. And this dial here just simply changes your octave. And this dial is going to be what mode you're in. So we have a bunch of different modes. Now they describe this as a lead synthesizer, so it's going to be good for leads, maybe basses, but it is polyphonic. You do have three voices. So the first mode is poly, and if we go up an octave, we can play 3-note chords essentially. It's quite tricky to play on the keyboard itself. It's probably going to be easier to connect a MIDI keyboard as it does have a MIDI input. If you want to know more about MIDI, if you're not sure how to use that, I do have a video on it, so go check that out. That's on my channel. So the next mode we've got is unison, and this is going to stack those three voices together into a single monotone like lead type sound. So then we've got octave, which is very similar, but it's going to like layer them via octaves. Okay, next one is a fifth. So that's going to make a fifth chord. Then we've got unison ring. So this is like ring modulation, so you're getting that kind of ring modulator sound. So you want some more kind of like dirty, kind of glitchy sounds. And then we have polyphonic ring as well. So we play one note. When we play the second note, it's going to apply that ring modulation. And it gets more and more crazy the more notes you add. Okay, so that's all your modes. So now let's look at what we actually have on this synth. So we've got our VCO section, so that's our oscillator, that's essentially what produces our sound. And we have a detuned dial, so if we go back to like unison, so we can detune that for some pretty more fat sounds. Sounds pretty cool. Portamento, that's like a glide, so if we turn that up, it's going to have that effect when you go between two notes. And then we can apply the envelope generator, which is here, to the VCO, which is going to affect it. But we'll look at that in a second. Next we have our filter. So we have our cutoff dial. So this is just a low pass filter. We have resonance, or they call it peak here. It's going to give you those kind of sounds. And again, we can apply the envelope to this filter. Which you can sort of hear. If you like increase the attack, then you're going to kind of get the cutoff opening up a bit slower. So next we have the LFO. So this is used to modulate either the pitch or the cutoff. So we have two options here. So you have your LFO rate. So that's how fast it's going to move, and we can apply that to pitch. So if we just turn it up on the pitch, so that's now affecting the VCO pitch. And we can also send this to the cutoff dial as well. So we can get those kind of effects. And lastly, we have the envelope, and it's an attack. We've got decay and release on the one dial and a sustain dial. And so this is just going to affect the amplitude. So let's take off the LFO so we can actually hear what this is doing. So if we increase the attack time, we should hear the note fade in more, like that. Whereas all the way to the left, it's just going to be immediate. Release is obviously going to make it ring out a bit more. And sustain is the sort of level it will sustain at if you hold down the key. So if you want full volume, you would just put it max. Couple more settings now. So we have a delay built in, and we can adjust the feedback. So that's going to be the amount of delay. And there you go, you can hear that delay kicking in as I've turned the feedback up. And we have a time dial, so this is how... So if you go to the left of the dial, so it's going to like make the delay faster. If we go to the right, it's going to be a slower delay. So we do have a built-in metronome, and the reason I mention this now is because if that is on, the delay gets cut off. So it doesn't work. It does say that in the manual. So if you're wondering why the delay is not being applied, if you've got your metronome on, it's not going to work. So let's turn that back off. We have a master tempo dial here, master volume, and then we have our play button, our record button. We have 8 memory slots in this. So if you hold down this button, you'll get these 8 lights. And if you choose a memory slot and press play, it will have some default sequences when you buy it. Let's choose another one. So you can overwrite these. So we'll look at that in a minute. But we have this function key, and there are a bunch of other functions that you will need to use this key to access. So when you need to do that, you'll basically hold this down and then press what you want to press. So we have an active step setting, for example. So if I press that, I can actually choose, do I want to have all 16 steps, or do I want to disable some of the steps? And you can just click them on and off like that. Press play again to come out, or function again, sorry. So at this point, I want to show how you can just reset the synth, because if you've just bought it and you're just learning it, you know, it might be doing some weird sound that you're not sure where it's coming from. So it's probably a good idea just to like reset it a bit so you can start from scratch, and then we'll look at making a sequence and how you do that. And that's a good starting point to make a sequence. So what I would do, it doesn't really matter what mode, but I'm going to put it back to poly. So for the VCO, we'll turn the detune and the portamento and all of these. So everything on VCO we'll put all the way to the left. On the filter, we'll have the cutoff fully open, so all the way to the right. We'll turn down the resonance and the envelope amount as well, all the way to the left. And for the LFO, we just need to turn down the pitch and the cutoff amounts, so it's not being applied. And envelope, I'd probably put the attack all the way to the left, the decay and release somewhere in the middle, sustain maybe all the way up. So if you're starting from scratch, I would recommend just to do that. Another thing you want to make sure is not running is motion, because you can record any like dial movements you manually do. You can actually record those, and that's called motion recording. And so you have this motion sequence thing here. This has an on and off option here. So if you hold function and you can turn that on and off. So I would say just turn that off to make sure nothing is running in there as well. Okay, I'm going to explain the sequencer now, and there's 2 ways you can record into the sequencer. There's the standard way, and then there's this flux mode. So we'll start off with the standard way. Now I'm on memory slot 1. I'm going to clear everything out, so I've got a blank pattern. Okay, doesn't seem to have worked. Let's do that again. There we go. So I've got the metronome on, and I want to explain this tempo thing here, because this confused me a bit at first, but you can halve the speed of the tempo. So I've got it on 1:1, which is just the normal tempo speed that I've got set here. But if I do function and go to half, it's now going at half the speed. And if I go quarter, it's going to go a quarter of the speed. Okay, so I want to start off just by going on 1:1 speed. You can press record, and if I play a note, it will start playing and recording what I'm doing. Or I can just press play, and I can start playing when I want to play something in. And you can hear that it's quantized my notes to the 16 steps. Now let's halve the tempo and see what effect that has. So it's just basically half the speed of the whole thing, and we can go to quarter of the speed. What if I record though at quarter speed? Because it kind of looks like it's not playing every step. So I'm going to clear everything again, and we're going to record again. So as you can hear, it's not played back what I recorded in. It's still aligned to the 16 steps, and it's just ended up stacking all the notes together and then still playing it at quarter of the speed. So this is where Flux mode actually comes in. So if we clear out what I just recorded, so let's just make sure that's worked. Yep, we've got an empty pattern. So if I put it in Flux mode essentially will just record my loop without making everything align onto those 16 steps. So essentially we've got quantize free recording. It's almost like a guitar loop pedal where you just can record a loop, and anything you play in that loop is what gets played back to you. So if you play out of time and badly, it's just going to play that back to you. So you do have to be able to play pretty good in this mode. But if I put that to quarter of the tempo, I actually get quite a long record time, and it will play back what I record in. So let's start recording. There you go, you can see it's now playing back that longer sequence because it's just acting like one long recording now. But let's see what happens if I take it out of Flux mode and play it. We're back to that thing again, so now it's trying to push everything onto the 16 steps. So something to be aware of. Hopefully that makes some sense. Okay, so let's just run through all of the options on the sequencer. So if we look at motion sequence options here, what this is going to let us do is record any dial movements, which is quite nice. So what you do is you need to turn it on to hear it. You can press record and then play your sequence. And you can hear there that it's recorded my cut-off dial movement. And it'll automatically turn itself off. So I'm going to turn it back on. I'm going to record some feedback and delay. There we go. Then we'll record a little pitch thing. Alright, next up, let's look at these LFO options. So you can basically change the waveform. So we've got saw, triangle and square. So let's set it to triangle. And let's try square. So we just hear that what I did on the pitch there is slightly changing sound. And trigger sync is going to reset the LFO cycle. So every time you hit a key, a note, it's going to reset the cycle of the LFO. Then we've got our tempo options, which I already talked about. Metronome. Step trigger is going to basically reset the cycle of the waveform every time you hit a key. So that's similar to what the LFO trigger sync does. Tempo delay, that is going to change the time of the delay to the tempo. Flux we already talked about, and we've already talked about the clear settings. So it also features this sync in and out, so you can sync it to other Volcas, so that's going to provide clock. You've obviously got MIDI functionality on this, so it probably is worth plugging in a keyboard if you want to play some more complex stuff, because playing on this little keyboard isn't the best. It does have a little speaker built in on the back, which doesn't sound great, but it's good if you just want to mess around with it on the fly. It does take 6 AA batteries as well to power it, or you can use a 9-volt DC adapter. Also, to write a pattern, you would just press function write. It would then flash on the one you're already on, and you don't have to choose that one, you just choose one you want to save it to. So you would just hit it, and then now it's saved. Okay, that brings us to the end of the tutorial, so I hope that you found that useful. If you did, drop a like on the video. Also, help the channel grow by subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.